Do you remember when distressing first came out? Have we been doing this long enough that some of our supplies could actually be considered retro or vintage? Hi, I'm Jess from jesscrafts.com, and I'm going to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get started. Today, I had to make a simple thank you card, and it's Black Friday here in the US, which is like a big sale day. So many things you can get at amazing prices. And if you are in the mood to shop, I would certainly appreciate if you use my affiliate links. It helps support my channel. But if not, I have a card for you that uses a lot of techniques that I've been doing for a long time, supplies that are like classic supplies. This is some cardstock in shades of blue to green. And I'm going to make a really simple thank you. And then I'm going to incorporate some techniques that I used to use when I first started paper crafting, when every supply was precious. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't get new things very often. And there wasn't as many new things either. There were so many less things out there on the market. I remember when Lawn Fawn started and they just seemed so like revolutionary. And now there's so many wonderful stamp companies out there. So anyway, I'm going to cut this large star from scrapbook.com out of the teal paper. I'm going to cut my thanks sentiment using some alphabet dies out of the dark blue paper. And then I'm going to use this really light kind of ice blue for my background. And these are all part of a scrapbook.com peppermint cardstock stack. I like that their cardstock stacks have a range of colors, but they all go really nicely together. But here is my first retro technique. I realize plenty of people still do this. I just don't do it as often as I used to when I first started crafting. And that is inking the edges of like everything. I remember when I first discovered like this way of adding some enhancement to like the edges of your different elements. This was before foam tape was like really popular and that added dimension. This was like another way of making it your layers stand out from each other. And I used to put ink on the edge of everything. I used to swipe the ink pad along the edge. Now we have these brushes that give this like really subtle, beautiful inking. But yeah, there was a time where I didn't even have the Tim Holtz blender brushes. And I was literally taking like cubes of ink from the dollar spot of Joann's or Michael's and just rubbing it along the side before I got my first set of distress inks. And these are distress oxides that I'm using today. Either one would work. It's just what I reached for first. So another tip I have here, if you are cutting your sentiment and you want to, cut them more quickly, I suggest taping them together. You don't have to tape them in the actual order of the word, but I just did that because that kind of makes sense to my brain. But I originally taped over the whole thing. You don't want to do that. I mean, you can, but you want to have those little holes that help you poke them out exposed. You could, I have my like poking tool is a little bit sharp, so you could poke through the tape, but then I'm afraid I'm going to like leave a mark on the cardstock. So when you use a tape to hold them together and hold them to your cardstock, try to position it such that it's not covering those holes. And then I do the same thing now that I'm ready to, I glued 2 S's together, 2 K's, etc. to add that dimension. And then I'm going to take some low tack tape and I'm going to hold it all together, put glue on the back. And then this way, when I put it down on my card, everything is laid straight. I've like used my mat to help me lay it out ahead of time. And this makes it so much easier. I remember another like old vintage story. What vintage? You know what I'm saying, guys. I used to, because I was so afraid of getting everything straight and perfectly lined up. And this was like the very beginnings of YouTube tutorials and all that. I used to like stagger my letters, and you used to like get tutorials on blogs. You guys remember those days, right? And I would like put one letter up and one letter down so they weren't supposed to be straight. And that's how I would get away with it, because I was like, I can't glue anything on straight. And then, you learn techniques from different people along the way, and you couldn't just search everything up on YouTube. But let me know in the comments, what are some of your first memories of paper crafting? When did you get started? What were the big techniques, the hot techniques when you started? The other thing I used to do all the time is put this faux stitching on my cards, because it was a way, like we didn't have stitched dies. Like those, when they came out, I remember that because it was such a big trend. But we used to just draw the stitches on our cards with pencil, marker, like whatever you had on hand. Like I'm literally using a Prismacolor pencil because I don't have any more colored markers. Oh, sorry, I have like Copics, but I used to have like all kinds of different fine liners that you could get from like the stationery store, because again, that's what we used to do when paper crafting was first getting popular. Like you couldn't just go into a store and find a bunch of paper crafting stuff. So if you found this video inspiring, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community. Subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.